Good deal. Okay, so let's dive right in let's start with marketing, because you're a marketing genius. And I wanted to understand, you're running an ad right now. You're like me, where we sell the financing. So right now you have an ad running that says just $99 down to drive. How are you dealing with that when a customer comes in and finds out they don't really have the ability and the stability that they thought they had to get that 99 down? How are you handling that situation?
So that's a good question, and that's part of the culture that we've created with the team members, because they ask the same question when they first come on board, but then they realize that without the opportunity, we don't have a way to sell them anything. We can't educate, we can't tell them the story, we can't tell them the why before they try to buy. And that's always been my goal, because even though I grew up in this industry, I've never considered myself a car guy per se. A lot of the business actually didn't make sense to me, and some of it still doesn't make sense to me. But the one thing I realized early on in my career was that if I had the opportunity to talk to a customer, that we could sell them a program, sell them the dream, sell them the vision, sell them the opportunity, and as my dad always called it, sell them down the road motors, which is, here's where you are, here's where you want to be, and we can help you get from here to there if you give us this opportunity today. But nonetheless, going back to your original question, it's funny because I study psychology and human nature, which is, as you know, a huge part of marketing. And that ad, the full disclaimer's in the ad. There's nothing really special about the ad. However, we know that the customer sees the $99 down, and that creates the opportunity. If you put, there's only so much you could put in an ad, especially on social, right? And that's where we focus on. 98% of our ad dollars now is on Facebook lead gen ads, and it has been for almost probably 5 years. And I'm sure we'll discuss that because I know you're a believer in that as well. But they're scrolling. They're not on social to really buy anything unless they're on the marketplace side. And from my experience on marketplace, it's pretty fascinating because that's a commodity-based entity on marketplace, meaning they're looking for a certain thing at a very specific price, and that's not our lane. We could shove all our inventory over there, but that's not what we do. As a matter of fact, and this blows a lot of dealers' minds, especially the ones I consult. We don't list our inventory on our website, and I haven't taken a picture of a car in 15 years.
That's so unique. Unique.
Well, I can't create the opportunity. Here's what happens. If you want a Tahoe or a Yukon or a Dodge Charger, and you go to my website and you don't see those, what happens? You bounce, right? So I have 3 to 5 seconds to capture you at that moment, and I never have the opportunity to explain anything. A program, a car, and if you want a Hellcat, that's easy if the Hellcat is in your budget and it works for you. But most consumers, they don't know that. At least our consumers don't know that. They don't know what the payment is on a new Denali. $1,200, $1,300, and they want to be at $400 or $500, even $600. That car doesn't work. But I need to be able to explain that to them. If I've got
so that what you said there is very interesting, and we did it along the almost exact same lines from what I'm gathering. So some dealers have a mindset, and there's like 6,000 different ways to do this business, but some dealers have the mindset, and I'm sure parts of the country, it's a little bit different, but the way we used to do it is almost identical to the way you used to do it. And that is, instead of a prospective customer coming in and seeing the shiniest, latest, and greatest, and then they want to test drive that, and they want to take that home, and then you've got to talk them off a ledge because that Denali or that Hellcat isn't going to work. So why don't you set them up for success from the start by talking about their budget and what fits their circumstances? Is that right?
That's correct. And it's all in training. And 3 P's for us is the whole key to our success. Of course, marketing definitely plays into that. But it's people, processes, and product. Maybe not. People's definitely first. Processes I always put second. Products always last because that's not what we sell. But make no mistake about it. We tell people all the time, well, if you want a $100,000 car, you have the same access as a dealer or as a former dealer or any dealer, we all have the same access to the same cars in the same places and pay the same price. That's the thing about today's marketplace that gives us all an advantage competitively, right? Because we know what, it's not like it was even 20 years ago or 15 years ago where I might steal something at the auction. That's still a possibility, but I'll give you a great example. So 8 to 10 years ago, the enterprise rep would call and say, hey, you need some cars. I say, yep, send me anything under $12,000, mix the colors up, right, under 75,000 miles. I don't care what they are. And they would send me, and I want to spend $100,000. And they'd send me, 8 to 10 vehicles. And I could re-rate or average whatever I need to do, right? They know what I want to pay for the vehicles. But now the enterprise reps are selling all those cars at the auction because they have the data in their phone and says, this is what this vehicle is going to bring tomorrow, right? I can't get that vehicle for $12,500 now because it's the last day of the month. They used to call it the last day of the month. I got 30 units I need to move. They're not going to do that now in most markets, if any markets, as a matter of fact, because they know what that vehicle is going to bring because the data is right here, right? So, and it amazes me the dealers that still think customers know what a car is worth, because there's a lot of dealers that don't know what the cars are worth, right?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So,
okay,
but yeah,
so
our mindsets are exactly the same on that. Is people process this product in that order, and to talk to the customer, who's always number one, right? We got to have the marketing to put the customers in front of us, and then we can sell the program. And it's all after that. It's all. I kind of hate the term word tracks because I think it gets overused and it sounds robotic. But there are scripts or word tracks, whatever you like to call them, that we use to explain the why. Because Jackie B. Cooper, who was a sales trainer for Ford in the 70s and 80s, maybe 80s, but I got his old videotapes, and he used to say, without the why, they will not buy. So every part of our process is when we say something, we say, okay, so if the customer asks you why did you say that, or why is that why you do what you do, we have an answer for that. So if they ask us, why don't you have cars on your website, or can you send me more pictures, or why do I have to come in? Why can't we do this all online? Which a new car store is going to do for an 800 credit score, right? But that's not the majority of the public, especially in today's marketplace. And it's definitely not the public that we cater to.
Right. So let's talk about when a lead comes in to the system. So obviously, you've got a team that is, I'm presuming, calling and texting and possibly emailing. So talk to me about the actual day-to-day process that goes on behind the scenes as soon as that lead hits the CRM from the Facebook ad campaigns.
Sure. So let's talk about, I think it's easy to talk about now, to talk about how that progressed. So 20 years ago, we had an 8-person BDC with 2 BDMs, so it was 10-person, right? And a sales manager that was actually over the BDC. As you can do easy math, that's very cumbersome, very expensive. The numbers still worked, but they worked less and less as time went on. The leads still showed up, but when you're paying per appointment that showed, that became very ineffective. It's just a lot of money. AI, and I'm not a fan of AI in all aspects of what we do in automotive or just life in general, but the one thing AI will do forever is follow up with a customer. It's impossible to continue to hire BDC reps to follow up with customers forever, because they're compounded, right? So if I've got 2,000 leads this month and sell 150 cars, next month you've got all the ones who didn't buy, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they just compound. They grow to a point where you have to purge every 90 days or so, right? Mm-hmm. So AI doesn't have that issue. So I love that. So now we are for the past 4 years, we've been one BDM with AI Assist that handles almost twice the leads that my full BDC was handling at one point in time. And the AI Assist is it answers, and then the BDM's always there as backup. So someone engages, they'll ask about a specific vehicle. It's going to be handled pretty much like every BDC is going to handle it at that point. We're going to text only until we ask permission to call. We have tried both ways. I A/B test everything we do. The phone calls got to a point where it was less than 3% that was answering the phone. And so unless they say, hey, can you call me? We stop doing that altogether. And that tends to be people over the age of 60. They want the phone call. They don't want to text.
Oh, that's interesting that you guys are predominantly, you're texting and not really calling at all. Didn't expect you to say that. Wow.
If we're calling, we would definitely need more BDC reps. And look, if it warranted the BDC reps, I would have no issue hiring the BDC reps. But we saw, like I said, it dropped to almost nothing. They just weren't picking up the phone. And like I said, we looked at that demographic, and it tended to be over 60 years old, the folks who wanted a phone call. But we do ask, and they say, no, I'm at work, or I'd rather text and get all my information. So there's only, as most people in this business know, unless it's vehicle specific, they want to know, in our lane, they want to know, there's like 5 or 6 questions they ask with everything. Do you have this? Can you get me approved? How much is my down payment? There's probably 1 or 2 more, but that's predominantly it. So I don't understand why it's always such a hassle when I go to a dealer to consult. They're like, we just don't know what to say. We don't know how to handle this. And I'm like, what's the 4 questions you get asked every time by every customer? And they don't know. Or they think about it like, you're right. There's only 4 questions we get asked, or 5, until it goes into the lane of the specific vehicle. That's a different thing altogether. Right. And I just put that to the side. Let's narrow down the customers who aren't vehicle specific, or do like we've done, and we design the process around the customer that's not vehicle specific. And if it becomes that way, right, then it goes to a sales manager.
Okay, so the lead comes in, the BDM and the AI are handling it right off the bat. Okay, and you're not really calling at all. You're like 98% texting, if not more. Okay, so how do you deal with the people that reply stop to the text messages? And like, from your perspective, we just paid X amount to get this lead on Facebook. We started texting, and then all of a sudden they don't want to text us anymore. Do you have a high volume of people that are opting out of the messages?
So we don't, and I feel the reason we don't is because our message is very specific of what we're offering, or what we're asking the customer to do. So if you say, look, text here if you want, if text yes if you want X, the variable, whatever the variable is. They text you for that specific reason. If you just said, if there was no further instruction there, which goes back to your processes, you would have a lot of opt-out, but we don't have a lot of opt-out. If we get opt-outs, it's generally because we tend to be fairly aggressive those first 3 days with a reply. After that, though, we still email, and we email through the same tools. AI will handle some of that. And we will call at that point. If they showed, if they submitted a credit application, they opt out immediately, then we will call that person. We feel like that's someone who's, at least in their mind, they're deep in the funnel.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, something must have happened. Okay.
Yeah, they're seeing a lot of marketing messages probably, and it's funny. I don't know if you've experienced this with AI, but we'll get people that start talking trash to who they think is the AI bot, but there's always a live person behind that bot, right? And so when the BDM comes in, it's like, excuse me, I'm a real person, because they say some crazy stuff. And they oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were a robot. They were trying to punk the AI bot, or see if they would respond back to them accordingly. So it's that can be entertaining.
Oh, I'm sure. What's the worst message you've seen in a PG?
Oh, I can't. Yeah, no. It's bad. I can't repeat it.
Okay, so how do you convert the text messages into actual appointments? Because I hear dealers all the time say, okay, it's great, we got a good lead, and things are going fine, but how do we get them to actually show up? Or my favorite one, when a dealer says, you get me the leads to my door and I'll sell them. So what is your process? And that obviously every dealer, all of us could say that, yeah, just put them in front of me. Of course we'll sell them, but it's getting them there and selling them on a reason to come to, your store or the store down the street or whatever. So how are you converting the text messages?
Yeah, so my favorite is that Facebook leads are trash. They're bad leads.
Yeah.
And look, I disagree with that. They're at a different place in the funnel, right? Most of them aren't in the top, but my theory, once again, with all my marketing, is if you give them reason enough to buy a car, they'll move. That's why the super aggressive offers, and I tell people all the time, say, look, and it's his first day of training class. Who in here got a car? Everyone. Do you want to trade cars? No. Why not? Paid for. I like my car. I don't want any more debt. The general answers. Okay, so if I could show you today how to buy a nice new car with little to no money out of your pocket, credit didn't matter, trade didn't matter, would you do it? There's always a pause. And the reason there's a pause is because even if you bought a car yesterday, if I could get you one that's a day newer for the same payment or less with no money out of your pocket, you would probably do it. So that's the philosophy with all my marketing. And our process with bringing people into the store, it's exactly the same thing. And a lot of dealers that I've seen, the reason they fail with Facebook leads or leads in general is because they want to do all the pre-qualifying either by text, email, or on the phone and run the credit. And look, we run an average of six cosigner applications for every person that walks in the door. And you can't do that over the phone.
Okay.
And I can't get them excited. It's hard to get them excited about anything if they're on the phone or they're 30 minutes away. Once again, if you can get them in front of us, I feel like anyone on our team can convert at that point. Not with a lot of sales pressure and now, but with excitement, selling the story. Here's why, you want to be here. Here's where you're at. We can help you get there. Here's the process. Who do you know that can help you with this? And we'll make the call for them. We get moms, grandmas, dads, uncles, cousins, roommates on the phone for that customer who they have no money. They've got some established relationships and folks that are willing to help them. And we explain that to them as well. And look, we're completely transparent. Yes, you're on the hook for this if they don't make their payment, but they plan on making the payment, and you guys have to handle that after the fact. But we're really aggressive with codes.
About how many text messages do you send out a day per lead, would you say?
Oh, per lead. So this is interesting. So more than 70% of the leads respond with the first automated message, which is the first message is always AI. That's basically the opt-in message, so we're compliant, right? After that, if they respond back, that the BDM takes over. That the other 30% that don't respond after the first one, that will generally take. Not generally. You asked me a specific question. There's 3 more in that one day period if it's before 5 o'clock. If it's after 5 o'clock, they'll get 2 more before 8. And unless they hit the website or submit a lead after 8, 9 o'clock, we won't do anything automated at that point.
Very interesting. Okay. So, you've been quoted saying that you like to hire people that do not have any experience in the car business, and I was the exact same way. So how do you train a person that's never been in sales before to talk about selling the financing? Are you putting that, like a lot of dealers, they just hire salespeople, throw them in the seat, hope they succeed, and when they don't, wonder what the hell went wrong? What is the process of getting these non-trained salespeople into your dealership and becoming successful?
Well, look, we don't have a lot of turnover, so I think that the theory has proven itself. But they've got to be trained first and foremost before they ever talk to a customer, other than saying hello, thanks for being here, hope you're having a great day during their lunch break. They're in a training room, and I'm handling all the training personally. And they're going to train for 30 days. They're going to train for 2 weeks on culture, processes, word tracks. Third week they're going to be with other management team leaders in management. Fourth week they're going to shadow one of the veterans. Even though it's been a really long time since we had new folks here. But I think that's been the biggest part of our success, is bringing in folks who are customer centric, customer service, food service. Food service make such great employees. If they were good in food service, they tend to be great in automotive, especially if they have a good schedule. Our schedule for our salespeople, it never goes over. On their short weeks is 38 hours a week, 5-day work week. Their long week, because we rotate open and close, is 42, 43 hours. And in food service, they're doing 60 plus if they're full time. They're closing the store. They're getting home at 12, 1 o'clock. They smell bad, all the time. So food service people, man, that was such a great niche for us. And folks in cell phone sales, when it was a little bit more aggressive. Now people tend to be stuck on AT&T or Verizon or whatever your brand is, and when it's up, you get the email and you just go in and swap it out and they'll mail it to you. But 6 and 7 years ago, that was not the case. They were a lot more aggressive. People were fighting for market share. Matter of fact, our top salesperson, she's a mom. She just hit 10 years with us, and she came from the Verizon store, and she averages 26 cars a month, and she's amazing.
Awesome. I love stories like that. So let's talk about how your salespeople are paid. We did non-commission. We switched over to non-commission, and that helped with the teamwork, and it also helped from a marketing perspective. So let's talk about how you compensate your sales team.
So we're the same way. I felt that there was a real void in the marketplace before I bought the store from my dad in 06. And we had so much turnover, and most of it was because of stability. Now, I know that a lot of the car dogs will say, well, they're not stable because they can't sell and it's their fault. And there's a lot of things at play here. Sometimes they're great salespeople, but if you're a 25-year-old and you're a great salesperson and you're having your first child, that can be really scary. It is really scary. And then you don't know what financial burden that could bring on you and your spouse. That's another layer altogether. So I think that throws, I don't know. I just think that can mess with your psyche. I saw it happen several times with salespeople. Great ones would just, something would happen and then they would just go sideways. So one of the first things I did when I bought the store for my dad was change the non-commission. So we pay them a salary. We pay bonuses for every car they sell. The more they sell, that goes up. It's all retro, and then we put little. I call it seasoning. So we have obviously a hat trick bonus. It's pretty common in most stores. And then we have a hot streak, which is if you have a hat trick on Monday and sell a car on Tuesday, then that's going to be a bonus, and that increases. So if you keep that hot streak going for 5 or 6 consecutive days after the hat trick, I mean that could be 3 months worth of salary right there if you know how to work the program.
So roughly, what are we talking hourly compensation, or is it a salary compensation?
It's a salary compensation, and every market's going to be different, because I've talked to a lot of dealers that want to do that, and they're like, I can't find anyone for what you're paying them. And we've had to adjust. The salary's been about the same here, but we have adjusted due to market conditions. And Burger King in our market's paying $15 an hour right now for entry level clerk. And I'm not saying that you're not going to make that here, but if you're looking for a 23, 24-year-old, which I love that age group, right? They're moldable. Mm-hmm. They're excited about life. They're not really. Most of them aren't burnt out on anything yet. And the ADHD minds that have increased because of cell phones and video games, and I'm one of those guys, so I can freely say that. I think the car business allows us to to thrive in an environment where a factory setting would not, right? Or a desk job just wouldn't work for us, or wouldn't work for me, right? As soon as this is over, I mean, my legs are already, already bouncing a little bit because I've been sitting in a chair for 30 minutes. That's just the way we're wired.
Yeah, actually, let's sidestep for a second. Let's talk about your energy. And I gotta ask you, what are you one of those guys that wakes up every day and has this workout and meditation and slamming supplements and drinking this? What is your secret to looking so good and like you've got batteries in your back all day long?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I don't work out, but I do wake up early. I love the morning. I'm a super morning person. I have a lot of creative thoughts in the morning. I'm making a ton of notes. I'm a reader. I only sleep about 5 hours a night. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I've never done drugs. But I do love what I do, and I love being around people. But I think the blessing of it for me, and we talked about the marketing part. I was the creative kid, right? And I drew comic books, and I literally wrote cartoon scripts for like feature-length cartoons when I was in 8th, 9th grade, things like that. And I thought that was going to be my lane, right? Writing music or writing comic books or anything like that. And my dad was in the car business. I'm like, that's not what I want to do. But when I got here, I tell people now, look, here's my job. They're like, do you buy cars? I'm like, no, I don't like buying cars. And they're like, yeah, and a lot of dealers do. Like, I know you spoke with my friend Jack Carter. Jack's awesome, right? He loves buying cars. That's his lane. For me personally, my job now is to create the vision, train on the vision, and then inspect the vision to make sure that my team members are spreading the vision, right? And keeping it in the lane I want it to be in. Now, of course, there's a lot more to do than that. But I don't buy cars. I don't close deals, even though I do sit at the front desk. And we're real community based. We're team based. When I say open door, I had to lock both my doors because they're so used to coming into my office and saying, "Hey, how about this?" or "Do you know about that?" Because I'm super involved in the store or the stores. But my home office is here in Winston. But that creativity part is really what I latched onto. I could do my infomercials back when we were doing infomercials 30 years ago, and I could buy the television time, and I could write the scripts. And now social media kind of gives me that outlet, right, where I can be creative on social media. I love that part, and I'm like, oh, I can fit this into the car business and let car people handle the car stuff and still be successful. Mm-hmm. So I think that's super important for all of us is. Whether we're in the car business or, my daughter's a super talented performer, entertainer. She's a student, but she's doing all that other stuff too. She's at Berkeley School of Music in Boston. And my son's here at the store. My son's selling cars. I said, look, I started in the detail shop and then moved to selling cars like a lot of generational dealers' kids will do. And I made great money, but I'm like, even then, I'm like, that's not what I want to do. But when you find that lane where you can incorporate it into what you want to do, then that's where you really thrive. And every successful dealer that I work with and I talk to and I'm friends with, they're exactly the same. Whether it's like Jack who buys cars and he loves that and he knows that's his lane. Man, he's so good in that lane. Now I'm sure he's good in other lanes too. But and when my mind gets to a point in the car business where I hit a wall, I've started other businesses and other things that I do, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that now, so I can check out and put my creativity somewhere else and come back to the car business. It's always here.
Yeah, you have I'm sure you've been told this 1,000 times before and probably in a better way than I'm about to say it, but your crystal clear clarity on these visions and ideas and the creativity. Did your dad have that?
So he did, actually. He was probably better but not as refined, if that makes sense, because he would come up with a marketing idea and it would be so crazy in a good way, and he would launch it. And pre-social media, how do you get that out there, right? It's just you got to put up signage, and is word of mouth or radio or television. He would do all that, and it'd be like, okay, first 5 people buy a car tomorrow. It's been slow. I'm gonna give them $500 cash. And I know that sounds like old car guy stuff, right? But it really moved the needle. Or I'll tell you a better example. So when I started here 31 years ago, I was selling cars, and we would come in on a Monday. We'd leave on a Saturday. There would be 50 cars on the lot. We'd come in on Monday, there'd be 3. As a salesperson, that's super frustrating because you only have 3 cars to sell. So they would always appoint me to be the spokesperson. Look, you got to go tell your dad to buy some cars because we have nothing to sell. And I would tell him, and he said, look, you got 3 cars to sell. Until those 3 are gone, we're good. I mean, okay, that was useless. But, we became known as the place where if you wanted the car, and if you came by on Monday and you saw it, you better buy it. Because on Tuesday it could be gone. I don't know if he even planned that, but he knew that excitement and that urgency of cars just disappearing one day and people calling, are you guys going out of business? What's going on there? I mean, people would call and ask us that because there would literally be 100 cars dropped on a Wednesday, and Friday they'd be gone because he had a huge wholesale department. And he would wholesale them, and we would have nothing to sell. So he was super creative like that. So I did get a lot of that from him. But because I studied marketing and I loved it from, and like I was a TV kid growing up too. I'm 54, so back before cell phones, that was not a babysitter, but in the winter we just watch television. I'd wake up on Saturday mornings, watch television, and you get ideas from all those commercials and those TV shows. And before you realize you can't do certain things, you'd see it on television and you say, I can do that. And I don't know if I ever really outgrew that part, because there's most of it I think I can still do, which may not be true, but it doesn't stop me from trying.
That's exactly right. No, it's incredible. You're everywhere. People know they recognize you. They know your brand, and you've established that. Everything's a show with you, and everybody knows it, and it works. So.
Yeah. I love the show aspect, and Walt Disney, the person, was a huge influence on me and my marketing, and everything he did was about the customer experience. But it also parlayed into that is marketing, right? Your customer experience can become your brand, or part of your brand and part of your marketing. So that customer experience has to be forward thinking, and of course P.T. Barnum, he was all about the show, not as much about the customer experience. But I've read as many biographies on both those guys as I possibly could, and Walt Disney was so, it's still amazing. If you ever get a chance to do this, by the way, and any dealer that might be watching this, they have a Disney behind the scenes tour. Back in the day, I'm talking 12 to 15 years ago, there was a waiting list. It took about 2 years to go through it. But you actually do the tunnels underneath Disney. No pictures, no cell phones, no nothing. They'll kick you out and ban you from the parks. But they will take you on that tour, and they'll show you how everything works. And then that's when you see the complete vision that Walt Disney had, where it's like, why did they build the city underneath the city, right? Or the tunnels underneath Walt Disney World. It's so where, Futureland Disney would never cross paths with Tomorrowland. Or Futureland Mickey would never cross paths with Tomorrowland Mickey, right? Because they're dressed differently. It's a different land. So they'll get dressed and they go up. So, and then when they're done, they go behind the wall and then they go down and change clothes. So that illusion, that's what you want to call it. They never cross paths, where kids will say, and even adults, if you're in the park long enough, say, Tomorrowland Mickey's in the wrong spot. That's not the way he's supposed to be dressed here. So all that stuff, it was such a huge influence on me, because I think I'm still a big kid at heart. I love the events, and we're always doing events. If it's the bigger it is, the better it is for us. Our trunk or treats are massive. Our community appreciation events are massive. We just had a $99 used car sale, which made no sense at all, except just to bring a ton of people here and create a lot of excitement. Because you sell a car for $99, you're going to lose a ton of money. Probably, but man, there was 1,000 plus people here on a Saturday morning, and it was beautiful.
With the community events, we had dealers in the past say, what's the sense in feeding these people and having them out here and hiring a cotton candy lady to, if I'm not going to sell any cars? And obviously you and I know the answer to that question. But for dealers that are feeling a bit skeptical about doing a community event, what would you tell them is the biggest benefit, or any recommendation or guidance?
Yeah, so look, I think that's kind of think that's small thinking for the dealer, especially if you're. Well, I'm not going to say especially. We're in a community, 500,000 people, which isn't small. That's in the city limits. When you go outside the city limits, it's 750-ish, and even more than that. If you go outside 30 miles, it's even more than that, right? But we do our community appreciation picnic twice a year. And we'll have 1,000 plus people, and we have bounce houses and face painting, and we do feed the community, and we don't even call it customer appreciation. I think that feels self-serving. That's kind of like when a dealer gives away t-shirts with their logo on it, right? Instead of what the customer actually wants. And we do give away t-shirts. It's not about that, but like if I gave away Christmas presents to customers, it's probably not going to be a t-shirt with your logo, with your dealership logo on it, because that's about me. That's not about them, if that makes sense. So we call it the Community Appreciation Picnic, and we issue press releases and put out videos and say, look, and we say in the video, even if you didn't buy a car here, even if you did and you hate us, we want you to come and have fun and say hello, or shoot us a middle finger. It doesn't matter to us. We just want to see you here and thank you for allowing us to be a part of the community with you. And it started as 150, 200 people, and now we do sell cars, which is not the intent. For a couple of years, we said, look, we're going to close today for sales. BDC reps will do their thing. We'll set appointments on Monday. We'll tell them it's a private event. We're not setting appointments, but people would be there. And by accident, this happened. They would say, well, can I test drive that car while I'm here? And then we just start our normal process. And now that's actually one of our bigger sales days, while we're in the middle of 1,000 plus people here at the store, feeding people, bounce houses, kids everywhere, DJ, face paint, circus clown. I mean, literally anything you can imagine. And we're selling 10 to 12 cars in that day. And our trunk or treat is kind of similar, except we don't feed people. It's just it's the candy, but still the bounce houses and all that. It's amazing. It's so.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we did, and it was fantastic. We never expected the turnout. We should take all this inventory that we have on the lot and like Tetris it together, like open the van doors and they can crawl through, and it'll be this whole maze. And we pitched that to the local stations to get them out there and get some press and some coverage. And it was a huge success. Have you ever done a car maze before?
No, but I'm already planning one now that you mentioned it, because I love that idea. It's so good.
And the little stickers, like the smiley faces that we put on the windshield, they would follow those little smiley faces to know like how to. I'll send you some pictures and a video. It was a lot of fun. And we set off confetti bombs at the start and did a major countdown with the DJ, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then those confetti bombs just blasted off, which my whole goal was that we could use that video for social media. And of course, the kids had fun and the community had a blast, but a car maze, that seems like if you haven't done it yet, it would be so up your alley.
Yeah, I love that. We did at our $99 used car sale, which started as a car giveaway years ago, and we did give away a car, and you told us your story and you wrote it, and we had independent judges reading the stories, and we weren't necessarily looking for the saddest story, even though majority of them were. It was just who we felt like, who they felt like. We took ourselves out of it, who they felt like deserved it more, and that became a little. We didn't know who was telling the truth and who was lying, and we saw someone reselling the car, which they had the right to. It was their car. So we turned it into something else that we felt would be more exciting, more on brand. Not that giving's not on brand, but I don't know. I want to be happy, and that one person was happy, but no one else was. So the $99 used car sale we were selling cars for $99, and it wasn't a lottery system. We would have the prices on the windshield. People would come in. You had to pre-register, so we would collect it. Our win was we had a huge database, because you had to register to enter the sale or to participate, kind of like an auction, even though that's not what it was. So we did build a database. They would come in, the doors unlocked. They would sit behind the wheel of the car, and then we would randomly pick, depending on the number of people that entered. So if 1,000 people entered, there would be like three $99 cars. So if it was a $20,000 car, we would literally sell for $99 plus tax tag and title fee, which doesn't go to us in North Carolina. So we have to charge that on top of. That became a lot of fun, and to your point, we had a drone shot and on the ground folks, and we turned that into a huge social media video. And it turned out, and when we did that countdown with the DJ and the bullhorn and the drone shot of those 1,000+ people coming onto the lot, that's a lot of fun, and the video was amazing. So, and now we have that database for next time. I think it'll be even larger next time when we do it. I do think we need to, like, instead of the same, we do our community appreciation picnic and our trunk or treat the same months, so people know. I think that needs to be a surprise just for we know the date, and no one's off that date, and we just drop it, right? So there's no planning and scouting the inventory, and we only advertised it like a week in advance. So if it's the next Saturday, we start marketing on the Sunday before.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that urgency, and that we never know when it's going to drop. So that, I think, and I'll let you know if we talk again, in the next year, I think that after the next one, we'll see more people. We'll see an increase in our social media awareness. Just people going to see when we're going to drop.
Because they never know.
They don't know, right? It's that anticipation.
Yeah, that has Mr. Beast vibes all over it. Like you never know what's going to happen. It's so spontaneous. It's so crazy. That's what those are the kind of vibes you're giving me right now. Okay, so to be respectful of your time, let's kind of rapid fire through a few things. What are you spending on marketing these days, and where? I mean, I know this answer, but
yeah, so I'm currently, and when I say, I give you one answer, is the original store. We have, some other, but the original store, we're $15,000 a month on Facebook, lead gen ads. We sell an average of 115 cars a month. And the only place we're spending money there is on Facebook.
Okay. And then what about, what are your thoughts on radio, TV these days? Well, you're spending it all on Facebook, but what are your thoughts behind those other avenues?
They're still viable, more viable than a lot of dealers think. If you don't have the processes in place to handle Facebook lead gen ads, I think they're probably more viable than a lot of others, including pay-per-click. Because pay-per-click, especially the subprime special finance used car world, is insane in most markets, including mine. Just didn't make sense. I did it. I've tried about everything. I tell dealers all the time, I've spent money in places and A/B tested things and spent money for way too long in things I believed in that most dealers wouldn't. So just ask me, because I'll put it out there. But look, I think television, here's where I see television really moving the needle. One is certain markets, but that's, you'll have to figure that part out. Radio, 400 GRPs, gross rating points, per person, not per household, per week. That's where it moves the needle. That's too expensive in my market. A lot of markets, though, it actually works. Television, here's where the deals are. The deal is on cable, and they are remnant spots. So here's what most people don't know about cable. I'm sure you know this, but if cable television has a bazillion channels, right? And yes, it's not watched like it once was. 15 years ago in my market, 88% of the households had cable television. Now it's like 48%, but 48% is not that bad, and they watch a lot. The 48% watch a lot of television. So with all those channels, I just did the research again 90 days ago. In my market, the cable system only has about 63 to 72% of their commercial time sold at any given time, right? That means there's 25, 30% or more that's not sold. What do they do with it? It's not used. It's just air. It goes away. They give make goods to people who are spending money, right? Mm-hmm. But here's what I used to do when we did television, and it can still be done because I see it happen in the marketplace. So if you go and say, look, I'm going to give you a check for $10,000 or 15 or 20, you got to do whatever your variable is. I'm going to give it to you today. I want you to run me a 30-second commercial on any avail. They're called avails. Run a schedule. They can drop anywhere, anytime, any channel. but I'm only going to pay $1 per commercial. Period. And when that money's gone, come back to me and I might have more for you. Right? But you got to set that budget and pay the $1. You'll be amazed at what you get, because once you get in their system, they'll also give you those run a schedule commercials on top of that. So you'll pay 70, 80 cents for a, $20, $30, $40 commercial at that point. Cable's a better buy than broadcast in most cases.
Okay. So out of all of the avenues, billboards, print, all of it, your most invested is Facebook.
We're Facebook, but I always give the caveat, because a lot of dealers actually have called me and said, "This doesn't work. You must be on the take. I don't know what you're talking about." I've got a call with a dealer tomorrow, and I turned him on to the whole, I told him what we did because he wanted to emulate that, and I'm super grateful. But I told him then, and I'm reiterating it when I have the call with him, you've got to have the processes in place to handle it, because Facebook lead gen marketing is different. Dealers are so used to customer going to Autotrader, cars.com, third-party lead gen provider, seeing the car, calling the dealer, and or submitting the lead and working it that way, right? It's bottom of funnel, immediate. That's not the way Facebook lead gen ads work. Most of them are top of funnel, not ready now. They get the lead, they text the customer, call the customer, no response, and this sucks. And they're done. That's not the way it works. So if you don't have the people and processes in place, and if I didn't, I would go another avenue. But and once again, I spent a lot of money over 2 years failing miserably with Facebook lead gen ads, but it just made sense to me. All of it with the AI assist, live person, Facebook. It just made sense, and finally we got it to click. But it's usually not immediate. There does have to be an immediate. There does have to be a call to action. I don't think that's not a branding campaign, in my opinion. That's here's what we've got right now. Submit the lead, and here's what we can do for you. I don't think it's warm and fuzzy, bunch of cars. I think it's, I don't know. That's never worked.
Okay, so when it comes to these are very random questions. Obviously, you have a lot going on in business and in your personal life. How do you manage that work-life balance, the stress, the pressure that you have to keep this whole huge, successful enterprise together?
Good question. I'm rarely stressed. I think I'm just wired that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, my dad's like that though. It's glass half full, not half empty, which has definitely helped me as an entrepreneur and in the car business. Bad month, there's always next month. Even though my dad always said, I don't believe in bad months, and I don't really either. There's really good months and there's better months and good months, but bad month is kind of what you make it. But the stress level's never really there. Now, look, once again, there's caveats to everything. The recession was extremely stressful. The beginning of COVID was super stressful because we didn't know. No one knew. Once we figured out, we were going to rock and roll and sell more cars and make more money than ever, that was a different thing altogether, right? But in the beginning, we were super stressful. We thought they might shut us down, but overall, not really. But it goes back to people, man. I've got some of the best people. My general manager's been here 17 years. And he was a godsend and one of the best car guys ever. My finance manager's at 6 years only because the one before him retired. My comptroller just started only because the last one retired and the one before that passed away. I mean, that's the kind of culture we've created to where, and I'm not on a soapbox here, but I don't think they would stay if the work environment wasn't good and we weren't all pushing and pulling in the same direction, But look, I don't think there's balance. I think that's a little, not that it's overrated, but I saw my dad was never at home. He was a typical, that car guy at that moment in time where he worked my dad still works all the time, even though he's not even in the car business anymore. Now he has a real estate company. When I bought this from him, he went into real estate. And my parents had me at a young age, so he's 73, I'm 54. So, you could do easy math. They were young parents, right? So he's still working and still super healthy. He's the one that works out every morning, by the way. But he's wired that way, and I saw him wired that way. But my balance is much better than his, but still not, leaving at 5 o'clock. I don't know what the heck I would do if I went home at 5 o'clock.
So how does your family, what about your wife? Obviously, she knows that you view this life as a privilege to be able to work this hard and do these awesome things, and how much your family and then the people that you employ and their families. But how do you guys manage your marriage through working so many hours?
Yeah, that's another good question. So I asked my dad, when my wife and I got to a point where I knew it was going to be a little bit more than just dating, right? I said, look, I don't want to screw this thing up. She's super special, but I work all the time. He said, you've already answered your own question. You got to tell her you're an entrepreneur. You're from a family of entrepreneurs. We work all the time. We love what we do, but you'll always provide. You'll never cheat on her, and you'll be there for as many of the important things as you can. But and I told her that, look, she's been the best. You can call her an entrepreneur's wife, car wife, partner. She never complains. As long as she knows I'm safe, she's good. I know a lot of people in the industry that aren't like that. And look, this took a toll on the marriage. It's not easy. But a lot of that credit goes to her, because she saw when I was building, like in 06, when I bought it from my dad, he sold it to me. And I always reiterate that, because and there's nothing wrong with being generational and your parent leaving you a business, but he was still, like I said, he was younger than I am now when I bought the business from him. And I'm thinking, man, that's crazy to me, right, when I'm thinking about it, because at that time I thought he was older and ready to retire, but I'm only 54, right? So he said, okay, you're ready, do you want to buy it? Sure. So I bought it, and I thought I knew everything. I didn't know anything. The recession happened 2 years later. So in that beginning, when I was building, I was taking work home, so I wouldn't get home to 9 o'clock. And that's when I was working in the business and not on the business at that point, right? So I would go home and I would actually do my paperwork and stuff until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Thankfully, I don't have to do that now. I can lock myself in my office and study numbers and figure out what my training is going to be tomorrow for the team, because we do train every morning except Saturday mornings. We have full service departments, so there's that side, which is another entity in business altogether. So she's super understanding. My mom is a saint, so she always understood my dad. So we've been very fortunate in that regard. And look, always explaining to my children, who are grown-ish children now. My son's 23, my daughter is 20. Why I wasn't there for some events. Like I made majority of the, not that they're all important. I get that, but my daughter was theater, music, and I did a father-son trip. My son and I'm still going on every year to WrestleMania, because that's our thing together. But he works for me, and I see him every day. And he's 23, and I think back to when I was 23, and my mom, she's like, you think this is what he wants to do? And I'm like, I didn't know what I wanted to do at 23. I'm not going to put that pressure on him. And my dad always said, sincerely, he said, if you don't want to do this, that's fine with me. Just be happy and do what you want to do. Don't feel like you owe it to me to come into the car business. And I really appreciated that. I make it a point to tell my son that you had a great week, you sold 4 cars, but this is not what you have to do if this isn't what you want to do. You don't owe it to me, because my dad always said that this is just a piece of real estate. When we're all dead, this is just a building.
Well, that's true.
Now it's super important to me, right? And it was super important to him, and he's proud, and we've taken it to certain places. My great-granddad started the first Frank Myers store 104 years ago this year, maybe 105. So, it's generational, right, the name. But if he doesn't want to do it, then my wife's like, what do you do? I say, you sell it and go to the beach. Or, what? I don't think I'll ever retire, but whatever we want to do at that point in time.
Is she just as much go as you, but just in her own? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
She's probably more so. Believe it or not, it's insane her energy level. But she volunteers. She's had to find other things to do now that both kids are. We're empty nesters now, which is a different.
That must be so different.
Season in life. It's so different, and the house is so quiet. And there's not taking. Our kids went to two schools, different schools on different sides of town, because our daughter was in an art-based school on the other side of town. So when that all went away, she found volunteer work and things like that. So she's she loves to travel, and she goes with her girlfriends, and they go places. And we also realize that we need our own space, which that's more of a relationship thing than an entrepreneur thing, because I have my things I like. She has her things she likes, and we have things we love to do together. But when my son and I go to pro wrestling, she does not want to go. She doesn't want to talk about it. That's not her thing.
That's not her thing.
Yeah, and my daughter and I and my wife, we love theater. My son's like, do not buy me tickets to any of that, because he wants nothing to do with the theater. So it's been fun and been interesting, and I love different things and challenges, like the trailer store we just opened. It's been open about a year now. Just had the piece of property, and that was going to be another car lot, and couldn't get the permits. And I said, well, I got to do something with it. That looked kind of cool, and so I jumped into a new industry altogether. At 53. So, and it's been super successful. But I'm like, it all goes back to this. It's literally the same thing. People process his product.
Yeah.
And the marketing, it's the same marketing. We're doing Facebook lead gen ads into AI Assist with a BDM.
Okay, so what do you have to say to dealers going into 2026? Top 3 things that they could do to get off to a solid start and make it a game-changing year?
Number 1 is make yourself known. Too many dealers, in my opinion, they don't want to put themselves out there and be known for something different. They think the cars are going to sell themselves. They won't. You have to sell the excitement. And I said 30 years ago, we all sell the same cars. We buy them from the same places. We pay the same thing for them. And we have to ask the same thing, right? Because every customer's got this. The Carfax is telling us what we should pay for a car, or telling a consumer what the car's worth, which drives me insane. But it's just part of where we're at right now. So we got to do something different, and I think that differentiator now is the dealers as a brand, whether it's the dealers, the person as a brand, which I've created for myself, or the dealership as a brand, and it's got to be something different. Like Disney as an amusement park is an experience, where Six Flags is Six Flags. It's fine. If you want to go ride some rides, Six Flags cool. But if you want an experience that you'll remember forever and take your kids to and your grandkids to, that's Disney. How can we take those Disney-isms and move them into the dealership? And that's what we've tried to do. That's number 1. It's not even close. Number 2, train your people. And to train your people, you've got to have processes. Do you have your processes written down? Do you have a training manual? Do you have training that they can look at, that they can watch? Who is training your people? You said it earlier. So many dealers when I started a Toyota store in Atlanta, I was going to do that for 2 or 3 weeks. It turned into 2 years. But they literally told me after the product training, which was VHS tapes in a closet on one of those big cart TVs. We watched all the product training about the new Toyotas and Buicks, because it was a combo store. They're like, there's the desk, there's the phone, there's the keys, there's the bathroom. Good luck.
Yeah.
I was there for 2 years and made really good money, but I had to figure out everything by myself. Look, I'm still in the industry, but that drove me to be better. That's not going to be the case with most people. They need training. They need to know. They want to feel included. And I know a lot of guys in my age bracket, they think that the 20-somethings, just maybe a 2 or 2.5, right? Maybe not a 3, but we can count as a 3, that 20-somethings are lazy. They don't like the work. They're not motivated. And I totally disagree. I think they work differently. They think differently, but they're definitely motivated differently. We have to motivate them differently. We're motivated by money, We were motivated by prestige, salesperson of the month, parking place, a demo. They're motivated by time off. They're motivated by, they still like recognition, but it's time off and quality of life. That's that majority of 20-somethings. That's what they want out of a career, and to feel part of part of a club. And I can't lead them the way I like to be led, because they're totally different. So, might count that as number 3 if you're hiring young people. And look, I'll say this forever, unless someone changes my mind. If you're looking for people, I hear this a lot too. There's nobody that wants to work. You can take the age bracket out of it. I think there's as many talented people that want to work in the marketplace now than there has ever been. I think what they're saying when they say that is, I want to hire someone where I don't have to put in the work to train them, to educate them, to show them the way, and to invest in their career. I also want that can be treated like the way I was treated. There's the desk, there's the phone, there's the keys, there's the bathroom, good luck.
Right.
That doesn't work in today's environment. That's a lot. I don't know, we're 3, 4, 6. I do think, though, that we've got to keep expenses down. We've got to get them down. We've got to keep them down. We've got to run lean. In 2026 especially, in vehicle acquisition other than auction, if dealers aren't already doing that, they need to invest money in that and train people how to do that, because car prices are not going to come down.
Okay, you've watched dealers in your mastermind groups and rooms for over a decade, I believe. What are the top 1 or 2 behaviors that you spot that you're like, this is what a top performer looks like?
Oh, top performers are always excited about what they do. They make quick decisions. They can turn on a dime. They're generally optimists, generally speaking. If you're looking at the rest of the room, the ones that aren't successful, they're always negative Nancy's and woe is me, and the market's bad, the cars are too high, I can't find people, 20-somethings are lazy. The car business isn't what it used to be. I have to block all that out. I disagree with it all. It drives me insane. I can't stand to hear it. I can't let it affect me, because that's not who I am. If they come to work for me and I mischaracterize them once they're hired, once they come here, they're not going to last long, because that's just not who we are. I can't let that filter through the rest of the dealership, because that's not who works here. But man, I think they're always learning. The top performers are always learning. They don't all read. A lot of them do. I'm a reader, but they're not all readers. But they're always wanting to learn. They're always at conferences, conventions, masterminds, or just picking up the phone. I mean, I've got 4 messages from dealers right now just asking random questions, because at this point in my career, I always think back when I was in my 20s and 30s. Even 40s. I wish I had other dealers that I could have reached out to.
Yeah.
I mean, they were out there, don't get me wrong, but social media's made it so easy, right?
Right. But they're not as,
Yeah, and look, I don't think there's a better, more giving community than car dealers. We love to give back, and they're like, hey, what have you done right? What have you done wrong? What do you think of this company? And I'm more than happy to share. And because I work with other dealers and have, like you said, for over a decade now, it's not about what I'm doing here. What I do here is not what I recommend for every dealer to do. Some dealers deal in niche cars. I work with a dealer who sells under $10,000 cars all cash, has 0 financing, and he crushes it every month. That's not my model at all. I'd like a little piece of that, but it's just not what we do, right? So I know what he's done right, I know what he's done wrong, and I can share that as well.
So right now we are obviously going into tax season. The last 2 questions for you. What can dealers do right now to acquire more inventory, even though it is a little bit pricey to acquire some inventory where maybe it hasn't been in the past? And then, are you expecting an actual bombastic tax season, Where are your thoughts on those two items?
Yeah, so if you're a buy here, pay here, or lease here, pay here dealer, and you have the capital, probably should have started stocking up in October, which we did, because we also have a lease here, pay here option. That's not the bulk of our business, but we do have that available. Started stocking up in October, and I'd like to have 250 cars on the ground by January. Pretty close to hitting that goal with a few weeks left, even though prices have started to go up a bit. But if they can't do that, man, the deals are out there right now. Buy here, pay here, lease here, pay here dealers. I don't think you can buy those. There are not many places you can buy those online. You have to physically hunt for those. Customer acquisition, private party acquisition, still huge. We're doing a lot of that in North Carolina. We can do consignment, can sell consignment vehicles legally. If you don't know if you can do that in your state or not, that's an avenue where you can sell inventory for that someone else owns, and you can make money on it. That's amazing without investment, because you don't have to buy it up front. We can do that here, so that's been a huge gain for us. And I think this is going to be the biggest tax season that we've seen in probably a decade or more, because from everything I've seen, I was just on a webinar yesterday. This is going to be the biggest tax returns that people have seen, and that doesn't include any of the other government money, the free checks that they've hinted that might be coming their way. If that shows up, it's going to be even better. But even without that, I think they said the average refund is expected to be, $7,500, eight grand per. That's average. So that's a really good tax time. And there are services that provide like fourth quarter. It's a little late for this now, but you can still get like fourth quarter tax refund advances, and we're taking advantage of that, where they show their last check stub and they can tell you how much they're getting back. That's always been a good service for us, and we use one of those. It usually adds 10 to 15 cars to our bottom line in December, which is traditionally a slower month, but we don't talk about any of that because, like I said, we don't have car people that work here, so they don't know the rumblings in the other. I see the Facebook groups, and I know you're a member of several, where they're dealers and they're like, oh man, how many are you hitting? And it's such a slow month, and business is so bad, and it's like, man, keep my people out of those groups altogether, because we don't have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Good, really, really good stuff. Okay, anything that you want to promote that you have coming up, such as a mastermind or a training or anything of that nature that you want to talk about?
Look, the one thing that this is actually an exclusive, because I don't think I put it out into the universe yet, but I wrote a branding book. I guess it's been 13 years now. And it was a best-selling book, and that was completely by accident. That was more my guide on. Dealers were asking me what I did, so I said I just put all these in notes, and it became a book. Not a very fleshed out book, but it sold really well. I've been offered money to write a sequel to the book, but I don't know. It's one of those things. That's not what I do for a living, and I have to feel like writing the book, right? So, but the book's finally coming out. The book's done. They have the manuscript. You Are Still the Brand Stupid is the official sequel. It's really fleshed out. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of the first one too, but like I said, I didn't intend for it to be published, right? This one, I knew it was going to be published, and it's supposed to be out in the spring. So I'll let you know exactly when the launch date is on that.
That's very exciting. Can you give us one snippet from the book?
Oh, one snippet from the book. Basically, it takes everything that I believe then is all increased tenfold now, because then social media was a new-ish thing. Now it's just what we do. It's the new television. It's not social media anymore. It's that's where we get our news. It's everything. That's communication now. The one thing I will say, and I don't know any dealer doing this, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot just putting this out into the universe, but it is what it is. I believe that social selling is going to be the one huge place that dealers have an opportunity to grab hold of early. I should have already been there. I don't know if dealers doing it, but for example, 25 years ago, I was making infomercials, 30-minute infomercials, and that's really how we developed our first market share domination, right? We saw a huge increase. Of course, like with everything, every other dealer started buying the market time or the 30-minute avails. The price went up. Then they weren't special anymore. Television viewership went down, so I stopped. I think social selling or social attainment, right? That's been happening in China for 5 years already. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry there. TikTok Shop is obviously, they're a Chinese-based company, or they were, but that technology is already being used. Almost every salesperson in my that I have here has bought something on TikTok Shop, which kind of tells you a lot. It's not expensive stuff, but it's stuff, right? So they're aware of it. They're in their 20s and early 30s. I think automotive will find a way to use it, if for nothing other than a lead gen platform, like the old infomercial on television, moving that to social selling in a live setting or a live to tape setting and running it, which there's a way to do that, capturing the leads and then just handling the leads like we always did. But that's in the book. And my goal in the book was to be the first dealer that actually capitalizes on that. So, and we're already building that content, and we're going to put that out there. And like I said, I hope that doesn't bite me, because I've put it out several times now. But that's who I am. I have to say stuff and hold like you can hold me accountable in 90 days and say, hey, what happened to that social selling stuff? I'm like, I know now that I've put it into the universe, so I've got to do it. That's just the way my brain works. So we're already working on it. So I hope to have that up and running in 45 days. But I'm super excited about that. I think the opportunities for that is probably the biggest opportunity we've had as dealers since social media marketing, like from a professional standpoint, not just post, but true marketing like we're doing now. I think it's probably the biggest opportunity we've had since then.
Excellent. There was a lot of value in there too. So, and I should have said this at the beginning, but I just kind of dived into everything. Obviously, I am not a Joe Rogan of this stuff. I've never done anything like this. I just wanted to talk to dealers that, many of them are my clients. A lot of them, I just have connections in the business. And I just wanted to get all these backdoor conversations that happen, after hours or at the bar, long after the 20 group meeting has ended. These are things that aren't said or talked about, or they're politically correct on the stage. We didn't get into too crazy stuff with you, but I feel like with this whole series, bringing these little bits of knowledge that get all spliced up, and they'll be super short, like the ones that you may have seen now, can really help a lot of people in that bite-sized content. And I really appreciate you sharing the knowledge that you have from all of these decades of experience in this business, and insights and guidance that you received from your father, that he received from his father, that these foundational pieces can carry on from not just your generational business, but into generations of dealerships and dealers that are watching this. So that is pretty cool stuff. That's some legacy stuff.
I appreciate it. I hope it helps some dealers. And like I said, I've spent a lot of money on things I believed in, and a lot of them worked out, and a lot of them didn't. But I tell them all, I've spent the money. Not, but like the lead gen ads. I am embarrassed to tell people, you or dealers included, how much I actually spent on those to try to get them to work. But one day I just realized I'm working these wrong. It just, I'm working these like traditional leads, and they're not.
What do you think what do you think your average cost per lead is on Facebook?
It was $8.35 last month.
Okay. And I know that obviously for those listening, that'll vary from, different parts of the country, but really good stuff. What did we not cover that you wanted to get out there? Because I'm not very experienced in asking podcast questions.
But I think that's good. I think that's one of your strengths. You're not asking podcast questions. You're having like you said, the after 20 group, hanging out, end of the night conversations, and those are always the best. the podcast questions tend to be a little stuffy and formula, just formula stuff, and there's value there. Don't get me wrong. And I've done I've done a bazillion of those. So that's not a slam, but I think this is different and unique, and that I like that voice. It's much needed in our space. So I think we're good. There's a lot of stuff there, and if they get feedback and we need to go a different direction, just hit me up and we'll schedule another time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think there are a lot of people that will benefit from it. And I love hearing from you and actually getting to see you on Zoom. We've talked on email, worked on some stuff together, but this was fun. So thank you.